Hey guys, Coldbrew here. Welcome back to another raid video. So, what is the 3%? 3% Coldbrew. What are you saying? Well, guys, if you're new to the game or if you just started playing, even mid-game players might not know this, but there's a 3% chance to be resisted, regardless of how much accuracy you're running on your debuffers. If they don't have this in their skill set, which you'll start noticing some champions have this sort of wording on their skill set, all right, this debuff cannot be resisted. So example, Ghostborn is the most utilized legendary in terms of dungeon running. He does a decreased defense and then the debuff cannot be resisted. Strictly speaking, this is the best champion to use to not have that 3% chance. What is the 3% chance? Keep on repeating it. Let me just tell you by showing you. RSL Helper, if you guys never used it, it's made by Farbstop. It's a fantastic tool. Can't play without it. Honestly, and it has many things that are useful. Let me just make this a little bit higher because I want to show you just an example of how overpowered some things are within this game. Okay, so it has a tool section, as you see here, a tool section right there. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Woo, there we go. Do you see these numbers, accuracy and resistance? So let's say I have 100 accuracy and you have 100 resistance. Guess what happens? All right, there's a 92.54 chance for me to apply my debuffs onto you. That is how overpowered accuracy is versus resistance, by the way. So if you consider fighting face to face with an enemy with, let's say, the same amount of accuracy to resistance that he has, you're more likely than not to apply your debuffs. There's a very small chance for them to resist it. You have like 120 accuracy. Now compare that 96% with just 20 accuracy over. While if you compare the 100 accuracy versus 120 resistance, that only drops it to 82% chance for the debuff to go through. So the amount of resistance you need is insane. If you compare it, so 150, that jumps up to 40%, 180 jumps up to 18% chance. So almost 1 out of 5, less, a little bit less than 1 out of 5. Then at 200 resistance, so double the amount of accuracy, you're running at 11% chance to still for the debuffs to go through. So you'll need about 250 or so resistance to be like, okay, only 5% chance, only 5% chance, 280. 3% chance, 300, we're talking 200 resistance, 3.41%. If you want to go to the lowest possible, 3.09%, we're looking at 350 resistance versus 100 accuracy that the enemies might have. 400 resistance, 3.02%. It's not even worth it, by the way, when you're attempting to do this. You just go to about 250 and you're okay. Because the amount of effort to jump your stats from 250 to 400 is insane. That is basically the 3%. That is basically what is making the game, I don't know. This has existed forever. They'll never remove it. But I don't understand why they have it. That affects so many things in the game, such as dungeon farming. There's no way to go around it. And it can affect also your Hydra runs in terms of the successful runs, your buffs being stolen, some debuffs not applying at the right time. It can happen just because of that 3% chance. And that's what I wanted to say. Like, regardless of how much accuracy you have, 500 accuracy versus the enemy's 1 resistance, okay, 97% chance to apply your debuffs. That is how I'm showing you guys on how the game basically plays you in terms of, okay, you're thinking, oh, I will never get resisted. Well, yes, you will. 97% chance of the time you will apply your debuffs. That 3% can happen. And I was looking at this post over from Reddit, and that's how I wanted to go through and explain you guys and show you in a way on how this works. Each time you attempt to apply a debuff, that 3% is calculated there. So champions that apply more debuffs have more chances for that debuff to be applied. And we see lots of frustration through the players right here on how this affects their gameplay. Like this guy here, 3% chance is a complete joke and should be removed from the game. That's what I said. But It would completely ruin PvP, at least 3 and not 15 like Summoner's War. I don't know about Summoner's War, I've never played it, but the 15% chance would be insane because we already have the weak hits, which is 35% chance, and that's how they sell the Void Champions, because they have no weak hits, by the way. But the 3% chance is real. Like, I think there was this guy, I was looking at some other posts from the past, just trying to see what the general thoughts are. 4 years ago, wow. Like, this guy was saying he had 500 accuracy on his series and a level 9 Armiger. Armiger basically resisted this. And we see the buffs on him, while every other legendary champion here has no buffs. So that is what basically happens in PvP fights, regardless, okay? Regardless. And then we have other RNG on top of that, which we're talking about, sheep, polymorph affecting PvP fights, and all of that. The general idea behind Plarium introducing this, I think it's for creating in some way benefit to the player, in the sense of, let's say you're fighting a fight where, okay, you don't have enough accuracy to do, let's say, the frozen spider. Can I show it? Is it this rotation? I think it's not this rotation. I can show the frozen spider, but the frozen spider, whatever it's called, Agrith. No, Agrith, I think is this one, right? Nether spider. Anyway, the frozen spider, can't remember the names. That one, you need insane amounts of accuracy compared to other areas of the Doom Tower. If you beat the small spiderlings, hair resistance drops and you're able to apply the debuffs more frequently, but still the accuracy that you require is much higher than other content of the game in order to beat her, to start applying HP burn on her, which you need in order to drop her. And a good example of the 3% rule benefiting the players is for that boss specifically, because you'll just run it with an HP burn champion that can survive. Eventually, you'll land an HP burn, and that will benefit you. All right. Eventually, they'll land an HP burn. Whether that's going to help you actually kill her because she revives you, she dies without an HP burn, it's a different subject, but eventually you would land it, okay? You would land the HP burn. That is the benefit to the player. The same thing goes for, you know, the obvious arena examples where you're fighting, can we even find a Paragon anymore? Where you're fighting a Paragon on defense, and they have a stone skin with 800 resistance. You didn't realize it's going to be a Paragon on defense with resistance. Whoever thought of that probably had a lot of time on their hands. Wink, if you guys know what I mean. So with that sense, utilizing that 3% chance, it basically tells the player, right, regardless of whatever matchup you're doing, eventually you'll get that benefit of that 3% and you're going to win. But then it comes the negative. The negative is, I think it's okay for PvP. It creates a sort of fun experience, like you throwing a wrench on somebody's plans. So it's not obvious what happens every single time. Some RNG is healthy, I think. But for PvE, where you're actually spending money, all right? You're spending your money now to go and farm dungeon divers, to do Fire Knight. This is my team. If I get 3%ed in a row, I'm talking, it's not impossible, but when Newt goes to attack the Fire Knight boss, in order to reduce his turn meter, he has to freeze him. You can now freeze him, so what happens? You reduce turn meter on the Fire Knight boss. 3% chance will only affect me if I don't have enough accuracy compared to the boss's resistance. Well, no, 3% chance will happen regardless of how much accuracy I have compared to the boss's resistance. That's what I wanted to say. And it can happen in a row. It's not like, oh, it happened once, it's never going to happen again. It is a fact. It's going to happen in a row. And this will lead my Fire Knight team to not be 100% chance to complete. Do I have a choice in running these teams? Yes, maybe. If I can run it so that regardless of whether I get 2 or 3 resistance in a row, I still reduce the turn meter enough so that on my next attack, I get the turn meter reduced. That's a different subject. But again, the 3% chance is still, regardless of how I think about these fights going, the 3% chance will always be there. So like, imagine here, if my Newt went in there and said, resist, 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 resist. All right. If that can happen regardless of how much accuracy I have. So I've now spent 40 energy on the super raid to to lose basically on a technicality that was introduced to the game for PvP purposes. So can this change? Am I just rambling for no reason? Well, this can change. They can add it here in the Great Hall bonuses. I would say this would be a perfect situation with where Plion comes in. Okay, guys, we know we messed up. We kind of messed up. We know. We will introduce this for you guys, and if you have completed your Great Hall bonuses to level 240, we'll open up a special bonus where the cost is, let's say, 10,000 medals or whatever. So this will no longer be the case where we're using our medals for extra rewards. 10,000 medals, and you'll reduce that chance for PvE, or PvE only. Maybe they have it on area bonuses. I don't know. I think affinity bonuses would be nice as part of each affinity to do that 3%. For PvE, and you'll reduce that for PvE only. For PvP, just keep it. All right, it's fun. It's fun when you can get through enemies' resistance sometimes. But for PvE, especially for when you're fighting the head of Mischief, you have your Mischief tank tanking, and suddenly Mischief head hits you. You've been running Hydra for an hour. What you're gonna do, you gotta have to reset the run because that basically messed up your whole rotation. All of the heads now have buffs. You cannot remove them because you're not running a removal of buffs. It completely messed you up. You're at the situation where the heads are eating your own champions at 2 turns duration. It just completely messes up the run. You're gonna call it a day, are you? Or are you just gonna run it again? And that's 1 hour, 1.5 hours wasted. For what reason? It's frustration without reason, basically, for PvE. I don't think it should exist, because for the attacker side, for our side, we don't base our farming on the 3%, if that makes sense. I will not build a spider team with the hope that the 3% happens for me in order to beat the boss. So the HP burn lands because that I got the 3% through. I do not build my teams like that. Nobody builds their teams like that, because that is an easy way to just evaporate your silver, your energy, not your silver. I was thinking about spider and how I farm silver on the spider, so that's why I say silver. So on the attacker side on PvE, the 3% makes no sense, because we don't base our teams on that. So why would the defense side have the 3% benefit? With that being said, guys, this was the video. What are your thoughts on this? I was reading through the posts. Honestly, if you search 3%, you'll find this post, which was done yesterday. You'll find a 2-year ago post, which is again the same thing. Remove the 3% resistance chance. And then there's 4 years ago, it's the same deal. It's there. It's never going to change. The developers do whatever the heck they want. And what I want to say is, remember that if you guys ever played roulette, and you guys know how the roulette wheel works, in the USA, I think they also have a 0 and a double 0. So what the 0 does is there's a chance for each number to go on the roulette. So think about the wheel. The 0 basically throws a wrench on your plans. So it's no longer like an even shot. Let's say if you play red or black, it's no longer an even shot. If the 0 comes, you're screwed, you lose, and the house wins. So closing in on that. That was the video, guys. Thank you all. Hope this actually changes, but I doubt it. I kind of doubt it. Raid is successful because they know more than us. They have people who think way more on numbers and how their economy works, and that's why it's been alive for so long. It's not just the graphics, I don't think. It's also the way that their economy is held, with keeping equal levels of frustration and satisfaction, I think. If you guys think about it a little bit deeply as I think about it, and if you played other games in the past where they give you lots of stuff and they don't have such amounts of frustration in it, yes, you enjoy those games much more, much more, but then you drop them 6 months in, right? That's the truth. Anyway, guys, thanks all. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.